Let's go to Oklahoma. It's Jeff from, some people say Tulsa, some people say Tulsa. Jeff, you're on the air.
David, how's the audio?
The audio is pretty good right now.
Okay, great. I'm actually calling. I don't know if you've covered this. I apologize if you have,
Yeah.
but I'm calling about the recent appearance of Sanjay Gupta on Joe Rogan's podcast, and specifically about you've talked about the dangers of going into these types of interviews without being completely prepared, and the fact that they bring up things that you maybe haven't researched and it doesn't look so great on you. And I feel that that applies to that interview. And I just wonder how you think to reach the audience that, how do you reach the other side when that's the case?
It's very, very tough. Like 'em or hate 'em, Sam Harris has a great podcast answer about this. And the dynamic here that Jeff is referring to is you get into a discussion about, say ivermectin, right? And you go in and you're ready to say, listen, there's lots of cheap medications sitting around, and that's why people throw them at stuff. And we've got a condition here in COVID where most people recover anyway. And so you've got to really be very, very precise in doing these studies. And so far, the meta-analyses of studies that were done acceptably show that there is not a statistically significant benefit to ivermectin versus placebo. And there's the study from Egypt and there's the study from wherever, and those were bad studies for these reasons, and that's the gist of it. And then your opponent needs merely to say, you didn't see the study you didn't see the study from Slovakia? The study from Slovakia was a placebo-controlled study, and it showed a 50% reduction in mortality for people given ivermectin. That study may exist, it may not. The study may say what that person says, it may not. It's very difficult to be actually ready to put out those small fires that are very easy to start, to quote Sam Harris. And I do think that the Sanjay Gupta, Joe Rogan interview had a lot of that going on. I think, a lot of the clips that have floated around are sort of like meant to make it look way more confrontational than it really was. Joe Rogan is right in the things he's posted saying, the vast majority of the 3 hours was very cordial and we got along really well. But I do think that there are examples of that in that interview for sure.
Right. I think one particular thing that was frustrating was they were talking about the study of myocarditis, and Gupta was trying to say that the people who have been basically they were having this discussion about hospitalizations.
Yes.
And he was talking about, it's not an apples to apples, but Joe Rogan couldn't get it. And it's like, in real time, how do you have that conversation and have it actually be effective?
It's
to
very tough.
Rogan's audience?
You've got to be an incredibly well-prepared communicator for things that for a lot of people aren't that obvious. And I don't know how to do that. I mean, I think you have to just take it on every issue one by one. And there were some moments where it clearly was not going to get through to the audience that was listening to that podcast.
Right. Well, that's all I had. Thank you so much for everything you do, and thank you for taking my call.
Thank you. I really appreciate the call. Very, very good questions.